So it's pretty common today on social media to see lots of posts saying how we're not going to vote our way out of fascism and blah, 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 blah. It's going to take something more radical than that. There is a kernel of truth to that, of course. Fascist authoritarians of any stripe never willingly give up power. But there's very faulty logic in jumping from that to saying that we should just not vote at all. There's no point in it. Now, the first thing that we have to address is the fact that 50% of the internet at this point is bots. I've encountered this myself on my first version of this channel I was trying to do, talking just about trans issues. There were a lot of humans giving me a lot of negative comments and saying I'm a gross, ugly monster. But a lot of them were definitely bots. And I didn't know that at the time. So you have to understand that's the first big point. There's going to be a lot of fabricated stuff from the fascists. From the fascists. A lot of the things that you're going to see, at least half of the things that you're going to see saying, oh, we can't vote, we have to get violent, blah, 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 blah. It's propaganda. It's digital warfare straight into your feed. Also, something that I heard a little more recently, a lot of what seems like organic content from actual people, or that maybe AI trying to, pose as real, either way, is actually paid content. And there's, people who are taking a lot of money behind the scenes to push certain narratives and certain ideas because this is the world we live in 2026. Now this sucks, but that's also very hopeful because it shows that the actual sentiment, what people actually want and feel and, are trying to work toward and achieve to overcome these obstacles, is not necessarily fully represented in what you see online. They're trying to, as Steve Bannon says, flood the zone. This is another way to flood the zone. Flood the media, flood the social media, flood your feed with all this negativity and all is lost sentiment. Like a virus, they try to latch into your brain and change your behavior from the inside out. Now, regardless of whether or not these are from bots or, false sources, paid bot sources or not, that kind of doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Anyway, there's one thing that you absolutely must understand. Whether or not the regime accepts the will of the people and peacefully transfers power or not is completely irrelevant. Now, just stay with me for a second. First of all, our job as citizens, as people who want to make our voices heard, who want to steer the country in a different direction, it is our job to make it undeniable by crushing the ballot box so that it's harder to rig. They're still going to try. They're still going to claim blah, 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 blah. But the more overwhelmingly we crush that ballot box, the harder it's going to be. You can look at Hungary for a recent example of that. Now, second of all, after we've done our job, then we can see what they do and respond accordingly. You can't whine that, oh, we can't vote our way out of this as an excuse. There's literally every reason to vote and no reason not to. Like the country is about to be destroyed. You have a job, a responsibility, and your voice is needed now more than ever for this country. Do the damn job, even if you're fully convinced that it won't matter. But what if they don't leave? Now, first, no, we don't want to count on the military, especially like follow Knitting Cult Lady if you haven't already. She is very knowledgeable about this. She's the expert on this. Military will not save us. However, again, I'm not an expert here. I do believe that the constitutional thing to do, if, let's say, we overwhelm the ballot box, we get the right congressional representatives in there, then they vote to, impeach, convict, all that stuff, blah, 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 and say, okay, he needs to get out, and he doesn't get out. I do believe, I'm not a constitutional scholar, but I do believe that the constitutional thing to do for the military then would be to listen to whoever would be legally in charge, which I assume would be the House Speaker of the House Democrat, to then go and remove the fascists, because Congress has then done their job, and then the president and his regime are not listening, but he's no longer legitimate according to the Constitution. If for whatever reason that doesn't work, then we do have other options. We have, for example, massive general strikes. There's one that's been planned. It's been planned. I don't know all the details of that. I'm sure it's still being planned for 2028. I know that's kind of late and stuff. The economic approaches that we can take, things like that. Now, if you're one of the people bitching that we can't vote our way out of this, you better be looking into that and contributing to that instead. Violence will not be necessary, and any attempts by any person to say that it will be is highly irresponsible, and it will also just make our chances that much worse, especially if it's before the midterms. They are looking for us to be violent. Remember what I said earlier. There's a lot of propaganda out on social media trying to get you to despair, trying to get you to be violent, trying to get you to, give up your power, your rights, so that they can crack down. If I'm wrong, that's still not an excuse for you not to do your goddamn job and go vote as if your life depended on it, because it does. Would you rather try to go to the ballot box and make sure that your voice is heard, even if they try to rig it? Because they're going to try to rig it either way. You can't just toss your hands up and say, they're going to rig it, we might as well not bother. No, that's propaganda. That's dumb. That's stupid. And if you think about the underlying logic to what's going on here, you're really thinking like, okay, well, I want to live in a system where we do have the freedom to vote, and I'm going to either not vote or become violent because that's the only resort. Like, if you want the system where we can vote, you have to engage in the voting first, and then, depending on what happens, we deal with that. Now, if you're still not going to vote and just silence yourself instead, as if you basically don't even exist, what you're doing is diluting the voice of the people. You're diluting the will of the people, because the fewer of us that vote and try to make our voices heard, the more that they can say, well, people don't care, they're okay with it. That's going to bring down the numbers, that we would otherwise have. So maybe we would have an overwhelming 80%, 20% of the people don't even vote. Bam, we're down to like 60%. Oh, that looks more like 50-50. That's like, see, there are plenty of people that support us. No, you can't give them any room. We have to make sure they have as little wiggle room as possible to try to justify anything that they try to do. Now, not only would you be diluting the voice and will of the people and serving the fascists, by the way, but you would also be spitting on people who have fought and even died for even the right to vote in this country, the suffragettes, civil rights era leaders and people that were, all involved in that. And to be clear, black folk are not under any obligation to fix this mess for us. I mean, we all gotta push to get this fixed, but yeah. This is a lot on white people, et cetera, let alone, actual soldiers who have fought and died for the promise of this country to begin with. All just so you could have your voice heard, so that you don't live in a fucking monarchy or fascist dictatorship. And by the way, not making your voice heard is not a protest vote. That mentality has only helped us to get to where we are. I understand. To be completely honest, I didn't vote for Biden. Bernie bro, yeah, okay, whatever. I completely believed in Bernie's message. I wanted Bernie to win, and the DNC cheated him out of it. If you think that that's all a scam, conspiracy, whatever, just whatever. We'll agree to disagree. But Bernie was cheated out. And then second time around, he was cheated out again by Biden. Biden was propped up. He was pushed by the DNC. If Kamala would have won, that would have been great. I voted for Kamala, but I did not vote for Biden. I voted for Hillary. I voted for Kamala. I did not vote for Biden. I had my protest vote. Luckily, Biden won anyway, so my vote wasn't really needed. And I am actually looking back kind of shameful of it now, seeing the situation we're in. And it's like, holy fuck, like, we need to do this. We can't have, a large percentage of the population not vote. So I get it. I get if you feel like it doesn't matter, but it does. A protest says something or tries to achieve something. Not voting doesn't do that. You think it does that, but all it does is just potentially change the outcome of elections in a maybe negative direction. Disengagement is not the solution for a shitty system. More engagement, including outside of voting, is the solution. Not voting won't change the quality of the candidates or fix the broken two-party system, and doing so, just not voting for that reason, is childish, it's magical thinking, it's a bunch of bullshit. But again, I get it. It's frustrating, it sucks. But maybe we had to get to this point in order to wake people up and be like, oh, okay, let's actually rejuvenate things. Let's get this back on track, because we're literally falling off the cliff at this point. Now, I know some of you are still going to be saying, yeah, but both sides are corrupt. Both sides, it's a losing game either way. You're not completely wrong. Now, the two parties are not the same. No, that is not true. A lot of the corporate Democrats, yeah, they're a problem, especially with Hakeem Jeffries saying that we're not going to make it a priority to impeach the president if we win back control of Congress. Like, fuck you, just straight up. Like, I don't care. We're seeing this rise of socialism, the boogeyman socialism. A lot of, right, I was listening to Heather Cox Richardson the other day. Very respected voice. Very educated historian. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of her. And she was even saying how a lot of the policies that these DSA candidates are pushing for was the right-wing position in the 50s. That's how far right we've gone. If you consider yourself a moderate Democrat and you're like, oh, we can't let the socialists win, I'm sorry, but you're right-wing. Like, this country is so far right-wing, we don't even know what left looks like. Anything to the left of, I don't know, Bill Clinton looks like a radical communist extremist. Like, wake the fuck up. Bernie had a message, and it was resonating even with people like, you know, like the poor white people and stuff on the right who would usually vote Republican. He would have won. And his message is finally gaining traction. That's the way we need to go. That's the only way we have left to go. MAGA took us so far right, we can't go any farther right. Literally, the country itself is being destroyed. There's only one more direction to go. And if you're scared about that, read a fucking book. Like, you have the internet. What the left, the far radical left, want for you, I don't care where you fall on the spectrum, I'm talking to everybody. We want you to have healthcare. We want you to have the American dream back. Yeah, make America great again. You know when America was great? During FDR's time. It was those policies. And yeah, you could say, oh, Social Security, this, that, whatever. Everybody gives a government-labeled ID number. Bro, like, the New Deal brought us out of a lot. Yeah, there was post-World War II, and we kind of came out on top, and it's a complicated multi-factor system, but a lot of those reforms and policies have been rolled back in the decades since, and this is where we are now as a result. We need to get back to what was working, and actually maybe even make it better. And please, please remember, no one knows the future, for good or ill. Anyone who's telling you it's not going to matter, or they're going to do this, or blah, 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 that's not determined yet. Your actions now and moving forward, the actions that you do take and the actions that you don't take will help contribute to what the future actually turns out to be. You have a role to play. Keep a level head, make your voices heard. Anyone telling you to just give up is either a bot, someone working for the enemy, or a traitor to the country. I can't promise it'll all be okay, but we have to get through it one step at a time. Keep rising and shine your light. The world needs you.